And so then that got worse now with the boop boop and the pandemic, because people are like, oh, well, these people who did not take the boop boop shouldn't receive help from the hospital. And it's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is awful. Like,
That's what scares me, is that dividing the people like that. And especially with all this information coming out with even if you get the boop boop, you can still get the WoogieBoogie, and you can still spread the WoogieBoogie. And but people don't want to wrap their heads around that, because if they do, then it's like, oh shit, they realize we're nowhere near over with this stuff, right? They're so ready, and I understand, like, you got locked down, and you don't want to go through all this bullshit that we've been going through for the last year and a half or two, and but you can't just try and force people to put shit into their bodies just so you can get back to whatever normalcy that you were enjoying before all this. Some of us would like to change. Some of us want to take this opportunity to change and make things better for everybody with the situations that we have now. But it seems like instead of that happening, things are now getting worse, and we're starting to see more and more like what's happening in Australia with, crackdowns and people getting, their ass beat just because they want to go to the store to get a gallon of milk or some ridiculous shit like that.
Yeah. And I mean, and it's funny, I'm going to quote Nicki Minaj, but if they cared about your health, they would give you health care, bozos. What, like, we don't have Medicare for all in this country. Something so basic. It doesn't have to be Bernie's Medicare for all and Jayapal's Medicare for all. It can be universal health care. I don't care what you freaking call it. If they cared about you, they would promote that. They would say, let's give people this during a pandemic. They would also not make it so damn expensive for healthy food to be available to everybody. It's expensive to get healthy food. It's very cheap to eat unhealthy. We have chemicals in this country that are outlawed. If you go to Europe, if you go to any other country, they're not allowed to have those chemicals in there, in the food, in some of the things that are in any sort of a house, the paint, all of the stuff. Like, if they cared about your health, our life expectancy in this country has gone down, while the life expectancy in countries like Japan and Italy is going up. People live well into their 80s over there without a problem. So if this isn't about your health. And that's the thing. And like, they get a lot of the left to really like sort of buy into their bullshit through the pathos, through sounding like they care, right? Oh, you care about this old lady, you gotta take the boop boop because you don't want to hurt her, right? These people who refuse, they're the problem. If they all just got it, then we would be able to go back to normal. People want to go back to normal. So what they do is they do everything they can, because they that's all they know. And it's cognitive dissonance, because in spite of the data and the information that's out there, people refuse to look at it because it's this cognitive dissonance. Like, they can't accept that, like, that things are this bad, and that the government is this bad, and that, politicians are this bad, and that we pretty much have no friends in DC, that we have ourselves. And so accepting all of that is really hard. It's really dark. And I find it interesting how, like, people, George Carlin would say these things and people would laugh, right? I find that very interesting, because if he said those things to me today, I would be like, and I didn't know those things, I'd be like, holy shit. Like, I wouldn't be laughing. But it's like, I appreciate comedians that talk about what's going on in the world, right? George Carlin, Jimmy Dore, what's the name of the guy that's really funny, and he's Tim Dillon. He's really great.
Oh, Tim Dillon, yeah. He's hysterical.
He's hysterical, and he's smart. He's extremely smart with his jokes. I love intellectual jokes. Like, it's not just very obvious. It's like, you kind of have to think about it a little bit. And I love that. And I didn't know I love that. I'm not like easily amused with comedy. Like, it has to be something that like really, really gets me. So I've never been a huge watcher of comedians, but like, yeah, like those I find very funny and very effective in what they do, because I think sometimes, it's too heavy, like you said, like to sit there and go through the news, and it's so negative and negative and negative. And we should always provide solutions as well, which is what I love about Franco's panels, where he has the solutions panels to a lot of things.
Yeah.
I love how he does that. He's really great at panels. And so, we should be doing that, but like in spite of all of that, right, what's happening is so dire and dark. Like sometimes you do need a little bit of comedy to like help you, to like make you feel like, okay, like at least I can laugh about this, because if I don't, then it gets really serious. And there's times to be serious, but there's also like, you do need those breaks and self-care and stuff. Like I have to work out and go to the gym and do all these things, because if I don't, it like drives me crazy. Like I have to release some sort of energy, because and it's funny, like when I go get a massage, sometimes I went not that long ago, and they're like, wow, you hold a lot of tension and you're like here in this area, and it's like you have the weight of the world, and I'm like, I kind of.
Well, you
Just
do.
knowing all this shit, like just knowing all this stuff, like anytime you talk to somebody that's not involved in this, my friends who aren't political at all, they'll start talking about stuff with me, and I'm like, sometimes I'll do it, and sometimes like when we went on vacation, it was my friend's birthday, and I was like, I want a break. Like don't ask me questions.